in the Pokemon games, you get to go on a great adventure. Once you're 10, you are off to become a Pokemon trainer, with nothing but a few Pokédollars to your name and your starting Pokemon. In later games, you would also have companions join you, but for the original games, you were just completely on your own. Pretty terrifying when you think about it. Really, a 10-year-old kid wandering alone in the big, wide world and trying to catch wild and sometimes dangerous creatures known as Pokemon, it's unsurprising, given everything you run into on your way, when reimagined as being a real-life scenario, that this could all be very terrifying and trigger some fears that you may have not known that you had. Today we'll be exploring some of these potential fears as we count down the top 10 scary phobias Pokemon will trigger. And be sure to stick around to the end of this list where I will have some bonus content coming your way. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10, Untitled. As with most adventure games, it is possible for you to fail in the game. Most often this will happen in the form of failed Pokemon battles. It is possible for you to lose a battle in the game, and you don't even necessarily get to just try that battle again. Instead, you will faint and wake up with your Pokemon in a Poké Center. If you are afraid of losing or failing at something, the idea that this could happen to you could frighten you to the point that you could become unable to face Pokemon battles, or play the game at all. Number 9, Monophobia. Monophobia is one of the terms used to describe the fear of loneliness. Because in the original game, much of your adventure happens alone. This fear is one that could come up for you, as you realize you don't want to go into that cave or forest alone. Granted, you do interact with people in cities, towns, and villages in between your solo travels, and sometimes you do even run into people out in the wilderness, but most of the game is based around the idea of a solo adventure, and it's this prospect that could trigger monophobia for you. Number 8, Nosocomophobia. Nosocomophobia is the fear of hospitals. As there are many Poké Centers that you visit in the game to treat injured Pokemon, these centers resembling hospitals could trigger this fear. For many, Nurse Joy has always appeared to be a helpful and kind soul, but for those who fear hospitals or medical professionals, Nurse Joy could seem terrifying, even though all she likely wants to do is to help heal you and your Pokemon. This fear could prevent you from getting the care that you need for your injured Pokemon, or discourage you from fighting at all, which is kind of the main focus of the game. Number 7, Xylophobia. No, this is not a fear of xylophones. Xylophobia is a fear of wooded areas, the wilderness, and woodland creatures. Forests tend to be a big part of this game, with the Viridian Forest being one of the main locations that you explore. It's very possible that this fear could be triggered for you, especially as you also have to face tons of woodland Pokemon while in the forest. And there are also a lot of Pokemon in the game that are inspired by woodland creatures, like Sentret, Ursaring, and Lycanroc. Number 6, NYCTOPHOBIA. NYCTOPHOBIA is a fear of the dark. There are many areas in the Pokemon games that if you don't have a light will end up triggering this fear. Not all caves in the games have required flash, but some of the more classic Pokemon titles have caves that you can't even navigate without flash, being completely dark and unable to see. Those with a paralyzing fear of the dark might even be too afraid to go near these caves at all, even when armed with flash. Number 5, Sociophobia. Contrary to a fear of being alone, if you are afraid of interacting with people, then the Pokemon games will probably still give you plenty of opportunities for this phobia to be triggered. Sociophobia is a fear of people or of social interactions. Those who especially fear conflict or confrontation within a social situation will likely be triggered by the idea of Pokemon battles, which are usually instigated by another person in the game, a rival trainer or a gym leader. Although your Pokemon are the ones fighting each other, you are still very much involved in the instigation by deciding what Pokemon and what attacks to use in the fight. Number 4, Entomophobia. Pokemon are based off of many different kinds of creatures. They also have many different types. Bug is one of those types, and there are many different insectoid-looking Pokemon in the game. Those who suffer from a fear of bugs, known as entomophobia, might find themselves triggered by some of these Pokemon, like Heracross, Pinsir, Caterpie, Wurmple, Weedle, and Spinarak. Number 3, Phasmophobia. Another type of Pokemon popular in the game is Ghost type. There are many different kinds of paranormal aspects woven into the stories belonging to the Pokemon world, including ghostly ones. Those who fear the paranormal and the undead will likely find themselves spooked by these elements. Pokemon such as Ghastly, Gengar, Duskull, and Misdreavus will surely send a chill up your spine if you find yourself afraid of ghosts. Duskull especially is super creepy as its design is inspired by the Grim Reaper, Death Incarnate itself. And Ghost-type Pokemon, as well as certain areas and quests in the game, will likely become things that you'll want to avoid while playing. Number 2, Mazeophobia. Like it sounds, this is the fear of getting lost. Sometimes in a maze, sometimes not. This fear could easily be triggered in the Pokemon games as there are many dark caves and tunnels. There are lots of opportunities to get lost in this game, including other locations as well, but really the multi-level caves are the worst of them. Getting lost in the caves can be both frustrating and terrifying if you find yourself focusing on the fact, well, that you may never escape. This fear also might cause you to avoid caves or the game altogether if triggered. Number 1, claustrophobia. If a Pokemon could fit in a Pokeball, is it possible for people to also get trapped in there? Now, if you have a fear of closed spaces and being trapped, then the idea of Pokeballs could really freak you out, even if you aren't afraid of getting trapped in there yourself. You might just be worried about your Pokemon being in there. Sure, they apparently are cool with being in Pokeballs, but what about Pikachu? He never liked it, so how do we know that all Pokemon are really fine with it? Maybe it's actually a terrible experience for them and we just don't know about it. And if Ash's Pikachu just was unique in his fear of being inside Pokeballs or his dislike of it, then how do we know there might not be other Pokemon who also share this fear? Thank you so much for watching. What are some of the fears that you feel when playing Pokemon? What do you think is the scariest Pokemon and type? What are you afraid of when you play Pokemon? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, Top 10 Scary Phobias Animal Crossing Will Trigger. Creepy Waffle says, in New Leaf, I am kinda wary of the frogs. They're really scary to me. I could see that. Their eyes can be a little unsettling. And Diva's Mouth has always kind of creeped me out. Not sure if you have her as a villager or not. Moki Cake Loli comments, my 3DS cord broke and I can't play New Leaf and I'm sad. I'm worried about my villagers. Oh no, I'm worried for you as well. I will tell you though, I have taken year-long breaks from my Animal Crossing games before, and everything has been fine when I've returned. You might have some cockroaches that you'll have to squish or catch, and you might have some weeds to pull when you visit next time, but other than that, that's the worst you got. And hopefully no one moves. And that's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts and feels responded in a future video. This has been Top 10 Gaming, and I'm your host, Amanda McKnight, reminding you to keep on gaming on. Pew pew!